G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room, and this is episode 16, Global Conversations. Well, welcome and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Virtual Staff Room. And this is a very special episode because we're doing something this time that we don't normally do, and that is to use this episode to promote another event that I really believe is something that every teacher should be taking part in. And that is the K12 Online Conference for 2007. You may have heard of it before, you may not have. I'm hoping that after this podcast you'll know a whole lot more about it and you'll be inspired to go and take part in it, because it truly is an extraordinary event. If you took part in the 2006 event last year, you'll know that it was an extraordinary event. And in this episode we get to talk to the conveners of the conference, the four primary conveners who put the event together. We also get to hear from a couple of educators who took part in last year's conference and hear some of the stories about how it changed their practice and what they got out of the event. And I think you'll agree that some of those stories are pretty extraordinary. And hopefully we can expose you to what's actually going on with this conference, because I really believe it's one of the best professional development activities you're ever likely to come across as a teacher. What it is a conference that is, instead of something where you jump in your car and drive across town or fly into state and sit in a room and have people talk at you from a stage, this is a different kind of conference. This conference is held online, and all of the presentations from a huge range of classroom practitioners and really clever people who have a lot of great things to say about education in the 21st century are making their presentations available as digital downloads. So podcasts, vodcasts, video files, slideshare presentations, who knows? We haven't seen them yet. The conference starts next week, or at least next week from the time we're recording this. So I'm really hoping that you hear this. You'll get to have a bit of an insight into what goes on into this conference and who's behind it and what they've done to organise it, and see some of the hard work that's really made it possible. And after hearing this, you'll go out and you'll take part in the conference as it unfolds over the next 2 weeks. Of course, the beautiful thing about a digitally downloadable conference is that it's always there. It's archived for posterity. So even if you aren't hearing this prior to next Monday when the thing launches live, at least you can still go over to the K12 Online Conference website and download some of the presentations, because they'll always be there. So truly an extraordinary event, and I really, really encourage anyone who's listening to this. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you are probably into professional development of some level, because that's what this podcast is all about. But I tell you, it's really nothing compared to what's going on over at K12 Online. So check it out. Head over there, www.k12onlineconference.org, and you can read the blog and check out the website and find everything out about it. But in the meantime, I'd like to introduce you to 4 educators that are doing an incredible job of putting this together. Darren Kurapatwa from Canada, Cheryl Nussbaum Beach, Lani Ritter Hall, and Wesley Fryer from the United States. These guys have done an extraordinary job, and I want you to take in what they're saying, have a listen to it, and go take part in it, because it really is an amazing experience.
So I'm talking with Darren Kurapatwa in Winnipeg. I believe it's Winnipeg. Is that right, Darren?
Yeah, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
And Darren, you were one of the original organisers, and still are one of the organisers of the K12 2006 online conference. And I just thought I'd just ask you a little bit about how you actually got this thing off the ground. It's a grand undertaking, and last year's, I think, from everything I've heard people talk about, was enormously successful. So perhaps if you just tell us a little bit about how it actually got off the ground.
Sure. Well, it all started, there was, back in April of 2006, there was a higher ed blogger con. And so we were watching that, and then I think Will Richardson wrote something on his blog about, how come we didn't do a lower ed blogger con? And, well, that struck me, and I said, yeah, actually, we really should do something like that. So I got in touch with, I left a comment, I think, on Will's blog, and then Cheryl left a comment back, and we connected, and it was John Pedersen actually first started putting something together. It didn't get off the ground, and so finally, I think it was in June of that year, I said, well, okay, let's really make this happen. So I contacted Cheryl and Will, and I said, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And we started putting it together, and we realized 3 people is not enough. And we reached out to Wes Fryer, and so Wes joined the team. And we started planning it. It happened really fast. We published a kind of a call for proposals on September 1st, 2006, and had everything squared away by September 30th.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we literally, we'd been talking about it over the summer, but it really happened in 4 weeks. And so by mid-October, October, the second week in October where we had our pre-conference last year, everything just really took off. Will got really busy and couldn't continue, and so he had to step out. And then Lonnie Ritter Hall had been volunteering, and she was, she's the heart and soul of K12 Online. This is a lady that works tirelessly, who behind the scenes, she's very soft-spoken, but the kind of stuff she does is of the highest caliber. And she's this year, as you know, she's one of the conveners this year. Yep. And the 4 of us, Cheryl, Wes, Lonnie, and myself, our strengths and weaknesses tend to seem to fit so perfectly, where we complement each other in such a wonderful way that we were just talking the other night, and I said, I can't imagine doing this with another group of 4 people because we were just lucky that these strengths and weaknesses fit together so well.
Well, I can certainly vouch for. I had some dealings with Lani last year because I offered to help out on the As Night Falls event at the end, and she was phenomenal about how well organised she was, and she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing. Like if she really is. Like people just don't realize, and she works so hard. Like people just don't realize how much Lonnie has made this conference a success. I mean, everybody has. Cheryl, Wes, like each of us, the 4 of us have sunk lots of hours into it, but each of us contribute in our own way, building on our own strengths, and it's been a really energizing collaboration with these 4 people. And I've never worked with people that are so professional, or I shouldn't say never, but these particular people are so professional and so like, okay, get it done now. Like, we have an idea and we move on it immediately. There's no, let's go break up, make a committee and talk about it for a month.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and from the little bit that I've seen on the inside this year, just from helping out with one of the committees, it's very much like that, isn't it? Someone comes up with an idea, and within a very short time frame, suddenly it exists.
Oh yeah, and that's part of what the tools that we're using enable, because in real space time moves slow, but in online space, in virtual space, time happens really fast. Like you need a document, you make it. It's done in seconds. Yep. You need a virtual meeting place, a wiki's put together, a chat room's together instantly. And then we mix and match whatever tools we need. We've got a Google Doc up. We've got an RSS feed. We're publishing it out. The blog is created in minutes. And 4 of us working simultaneously over Skype. Things happen so fast. And that kind of speed and professionalism, the speed with which we can accomplish great things, and the level of professionalism is what we really hope to accomplish and to enable for everybody who participates in K12 Online. That the tools are just that; they're tools. The key is what they enable.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, and the fact that you guys are actually modelling the exact kind of thing that we're talking about that teachers ought to be doing with kids in classrooms is pretty extraordinary as well.
Yeah, I think it's got to start. Like teachers, if you don't know what's possible, then you can't imagine what can be. So I think when we try to do professional development with teachers, and something like K12 Online I think opens the door to this, is it kind of illustrates what's possible. And once people see what can be done, it sort of gets their creative juices flowing. And, between last year and this year, people did all sorts of wonderful things all over the world. The collaborations that you were talking about people that you met through K12 Online 06.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story in here about a guy I was working with last year. I was on exchange to Canada last year, and I shared a staff room with a guy called Simon O'Carroll, and he got all fired up listening to the K12 Online Conference last year, and he went and did this.
Hi, my name is Simon O'Carroll, and I'm a religious education teacher at Holy Trinity Catholic Secondary School in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. I teach courses in ethics and world religions, and after last year's K12 Online Conference, I started to think about how I could integrate the use of some of the technologies that I had learned about at the conference into my classroom. And when I say at, I always remember David Warlick's great line, "I am here, and I am now, and you are there, and you are then" line. That line has stuck with me. When I was introduced to the idea of read, write, web, and tools such as blogs and wikis. Well, I started to do a little blogging with my students, and I also set up a class wiki for students to start collaborating on simple things like class sets of chapter summary notes. But I think one of the most important things that I took away from the conference last year was the connection to the larger education community out there. In fact, a global education community. The conference connected me with others who are an additional support network for my teaching. There are people with great ideas who are more than happy to give guidance and encouragement to me, and this is very important to me considering my newness to technology integration in the classroom. But the conference gave me the courage to go out there and make contact, and I did. I made contact with another teacher through his blog, and we sat down together. And when I say together, I'm in Canada and he was in London, England, and we put together the framework for a global collaborative project between our two classes, and we put together what was called the Flat Planet Project. And our students worked on the issue of the environment, which is a global issue, and they did this from a perspective of Catholic moral responsibility. And we were both quite delighted with the response we got from our students who worked on this project. Our project was named the Wikispace Space of the Month for April of this year, and this was quite to our amazement, as here we were, two teachers who were essentially new to the things that were being presented to us at the K12 Online Conference. And we were being recognized for our use of these things. And we would not have had this experience, and more importantly, I think, our students would not have had this experience without the work of the people who had put together the K12 Online Conference. I'm looking forward to learning more and connecting more at the 2007 K12 Online Conference. Peace.
But that's what came of that.
You know what? I think I saw that wiki. I didn't realize that collaboration was originally sparked by K12 Online. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, totally sparked by it. So, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and it's kind of all these little networks that form, these little connections, personal connections that people make. And a result of those personal connections, they form these little networks, professional learning networks.
Absolutely.
And then they do really wonderful things, which spills over into the classrooms.
And, I'd even go, not another step further, but I'd even add to that, I've got all these people now who I've admired for a long time, whose blogs that I've read and whose work I've sort of looked at and thought, wow, and these people are now sitting in my Skype list and my Twitter feed and stuff, and I converse with these people on a regular basis now, and those connections probably would never have been forged had it not been for the excuse of having to deal with these people for things like K12 Online. So,
no, it's true. I know, the people on my Twitter network, and I've been twittering on my personal. Any twittering I've done has usually been for K12 Online for the last month, and I miss them.
Yeah.
I feel like I've lost touch with friends.
Yeah.
And they're all over the world. And sometimes if you're up late, you kind of see the conversation drift across the planet. When the North Americans or everyone kind of, North and South Americans start going to bed, and the Aussies are waking up. And then, and the folks in Europe are waking up, and it's you see the shifting conversation panning across the world.
It's really interesting, and you really see that on Twitter. Because you actually have people saying, well, I'm going to bed now, good night. And you get other people saying, hello, world, I've just woken up. So it is a really interesting
It's very
phenomenon.
personal.
Yeah, very much. Just a question on this type of conference. When most people think of a professional development conference, they imagine, they They get in their car and they drive somewhere and they sit in a big room and they get talked at, and this is different. And I guess there's a certain disruptive or almost provocative kind of nature about it. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and that's very much by design. I think a lot of people, if a lot of teachers, and I think this is true no matter where we are in the world, go to professional development. And I think there's an attitude that if you go to a day's worth of professional development and you walk out with one idea that's actionable, one good idea, you have one takeaway from a day's invested into professional development, then that's a good thing.
Sure.
And I've always felt that's a load of malarkey. I have a full day to get one idea that probably if you had given me a sheet of paper with a few bullet points on it, I could have read it in a couple of minutes and had that same idea.
Yeah.
Don't waste my time. I'm not, professional development for me personally, that's a really important part of what I do. It's really integral to making me a good teacher. And if I'm going to lose a full day working with my students for professional development, there better be some bang for that buck. And this is a bit of a personal thing, I guess, but I just find that more and more the professional development that we're offered in these face-to-face meetups where someone stands in front of the room and talks and says, when you're in your classroom, don't just talk at them. And yet that's what they're doing. Where's the models for the teachers? So what's different about K12 Online is that the presentation is the beginning of the conversation. The presenter, whether they're a keynote or presenter, isn't relevant. Those people are there to start a conversation. And not only that, but while they're in the process of giving that conversation, which I think we saw on Monday when David's keynote went live, and he had a chat room that he built to go hand in hand with it. And now everyone's on. There's a lot of people using Twitter. So as they're watching it, they're in the process of consuming it, and they're reflecting on it and commenting on it and engaging with a global community of people who are pushing their thinking back and forth live as the presentation is being made. Well, that's a powerful learning experience.
It's a pretty extraordinary thing,
and people walk out of that not with one good idea, because their thinking's been pushed and stretched, and the presenter was basically started the thing off with their ideas, and then people have run with it and added to that.
Yeah.
Now you're walking away from a 1-hour professional development experience with so many actionable ideas. That's powerful learning. And that's what our classrooms should be like too.
Well, that's what's been powerfully obvious to me and to other people I've spoken to, and I'm going to drop in here a little quote from Kim Kafino, an American teacher teaching in Bangkok in Thailand, and we can hear her experience as she came away from the 2006 event last year.
Hi, this is Kim Kafino. I am the 21st Century Literacy Specialist at the International School Bangkok in Thailand. I attended the 2006 K12 Online Conference last year, and I think the biggest impact it had on my teaching was a feeling of empowerment that I can actually do all of these things, and there are tons of people out there doing the exact same kinds of things that I want to do in my classroom. It also was great to see that these people are willing to share and collaborate with people like me who are totally new to this whole Web 2.0 world. And because of that conference, I actually changed the way I teach in my classroom and have become much more globally collaborative and have started lots of different projects with other educators who were involved in the K12 Online Conference last year because of the connections we made being part of the conference together at the beginning of the school year. So for me, it was the best professional development I had had in easily 5 or 6 years. And it was honestly only matched by the Learning 2.0 conference this year. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity, especially free. You can do it in your own house, and you can check on any of those conference presentations anytime you want, so there's no time pressure at all. So hands down, best conference of the year, 2006.
Last night when we had the fireside chat with David, and the excitement in the room is palpable. The chat is going by so fast, and there's things happening on the whiteboard, and people are talking, and there's some video there too, and the slides are changing, and then we broke up into rooms and had private little, small intimate conversations and came back together as a group, and all of it happened so fast, and it happens in an hour, and it's over.
Yep.
No one wants to leave. I saw someone tweeting about it
That chat
about
went on for another
2.5 hours
afterwards. Exactly, 2.5 hours.
And they were still in the chat, in Illuminate, still talking to each other. David had left. The 4 conveners had gone, and I said, is there anyone in the room? I went to visit, and I said, hi, I just wanted to see if there was really people here, and there was about 8 or 9 people there. And I said, is anybody here now who was here at the original session tonight? And not a one of them had been in the original session.
Really?
They came when they could and found other people, and they just started talking. And the conversation was about teaching and learning and dealing with the issues that we have to deal with as teachers in the course of doing our jobs. So it's like, everything's just in time. When you want it, when you need it, when you're ready, there's a group of educators that you can collaborate with and learn from together. And I think that's what K12 is all about. It's about making a lot of those personal connections and leveraging the personal relationships that you have with other professionals wherever they are in the world so that you can bring some of that back into your classroom.
We're now going to switch over to the other side of the country where I'm talking to Cheryl Nussbaum Beach and Lani Ritter Hall. Cheryl, you're from Virginia Beach on the East Coast?
I am.
Excellent.
Yeah, Virginia Beach.
Thanks for joining us. And Lani, you're up in Ohio.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. And you two are, again, conveners of the conference and pretty responsible for making this thing run smoothly, along with Wes, who unfortunately can't join us at the moment. Lani, I was going to ask, but Cheryl, feel free to jump in, or whoever wants to answer the questions. In terms of putting the presentations together, I guess you guys put out like a call for presenters and you get a bunch of people putting proposals forward. Is that pretty much the way it works?
That's correct.
And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how many proposals did you actually receive this year?
Oh, my goodness. Over 100, I believe.
Wow. And you went
Yes.
with, how many ended up making the cut?
40. There will be 40 presentations, so 40 ended up making the cut. And the process for that, we were not involved in that process purposefully. For each strand, there was a peer review committee, educators that currently use WebPoint tools in their classroom, and they went through the proposals for each strand, and they had a really, really tough job with it, and worked together to narrow down the presentations to 10 for each strand. Nobody knows who the peer review committees were for very good reasons, and we think it was really the fairest way to go about getting the best of the best for the conference. And by the way, when they did the peer review, it was all the names were removed, so nobody knew exactly who it was they were reviewing. It was all totally based on the quality of what was presented to them.
Wow, what a wonderful process. That's great.
It also gave us an opportunity, Chris, to really involve some international voice, because on those committees, for each strand, we each chose our own committee of volunteers that would be willing to do a blind review, and all of us had international members that were part of that committee.
Right.
So that made it, I think that really gave it a different flavor, because I think even though they had a rubric looking for quality, I think that because you had that diversity, it gave us the well-rounded group of presenters that we have.
Let me play you a little grab here from Graham Wegner, who was a presenter at last year's conference and also took part in it. And so I'd like to let you hear what Graham got out of last year's conference, both from a presenter's point of view and also as a participant.
G'day, I'm Graham Wegner from Adelaide, Australia. And this is what I got out of last year's K12 Online Conference. I got to participate as a presenter and be one of 4 Australians involved in what was really groundbreaking conference. What I really like about it last year was the fact that I had so much talent, so many classroom practitioners who were willing to share their expertise. One of my favourites last year was the Global Literacy by Clarence Fisher from Canada. One of the other really great things about being involved in K-12 was actually connecting and meeting new educators from around the world. I made friends with people like Chris Harbeck, Cheryl Nussbaum Beach, Kim Cofino, even Chris Betcher, all people that I may not have connected with if it wasn't for K12 Online Conference. So do yourself a favour, make sure you check out this year's K12 Online Conference 2007 And if you're curious what all the fuss was about, you can always still go back and check the 2006 archives. They're still there. They'll be there for as long as the web exists.
So, for people who are thinking about taking part in this year's event, who are maybe listening to this podcast and going, "Oh, this sounds interesting, I might take part in it," can you give me some sort of little rundown on what sort of things they might expect from this year's conference?
It's very exciting, Chris. There's a whole lot of things that people who want to get involved in can get involved in this year. In addition to the pre-conference keynote by David Warlick that just recently happened, we've set up not only a group of wonderful keynoters and presenters where they can asynchronously download their presentations, view them in the privacy of their home or at work or on the road in their iPod, whatever they want to do. There's also lots of different live events they can get involved in. We have fireside chats that give you an opportunity to spend some time with the presenters or the keynoters and ask questions. It also is a very important part of the conference because what happens is there's some networking that goes on, and people from very diverse locations in the universe come together in one place, and they are able to meet each other and figure out ideas for collaboration and ways they can work together online. Different people have told me that it has really spawned friendships for them, that they had met the person through K12 Online, and that now internationally they're very good friends and do all kinds of things together online. In fact, I was talking to Lee Baber, one of our presenters who also chairs the accessibility committee.
Right.
We have different committees who have set up different things. And she said that a gentleman from, I believe it's Denmark, that volunteered to work on the committee with her. He and her have just hit it off famously and are planning to do several other things relating to their own jobs that they do on a regular basis. And so it's a way to forge friendships and build relationships with other people. In addition to downloading content and the fireside chats, you also have an opportunity to be involved in things like at the end of the conference, we do a culminating event called When Night Falls. And that's where as the sun sets across the globe for 1 hour, different participants volunteer to moderate, and people can come into an online environment. Last year we used Skype for Skype Cast, and this year we're going to use Illuminate. It'll be there for 24 hours. Different moderators will take an hour. People will drop in. They'll have discussion around the presentations that they saw and things that they learned, different kinds of highlights of the conference for them. So that's another live event they can get involved in. There are several component pieces to the conference that will increase one's personal learning. You have the conference blog. It has a Twitter piece to it where you can follow what's going on in Twitter.
Yep.
You also can go to the wiki. And on the wiki, it has lots of different components. There's a first-timers page where if you've never attended an online conference before, it gives you lots of tips and tricks. Amazingly, we had a committee that did help desk this year, and they have lots of ways that you can get in touch with them. And one of them is a live chat that if you go to the help desk wiki, you can actually have people that will engage with you live and help you to work out if you had a downloading issue, if you had a question about the conference. So there's lots of different ways to get involved and to spend time with people both in real time online or in an asynchronous way.
You've certainly covered lots of bases here, and that's what I find most impressive about it. And I'd like you to listen to this little quote here I have from Carolyn Foote from Austin, Texas, where she's talking about not only what she got out of last year's conference, but also how it opened up her eyes to a whole bunch of new technologies she hadn't used before, and she had to do things like learn to install stuff and use stuff in order to take part. So here's Carolyn.
What did I learn from K12 Online last year? This is Carolyn Foote, and I'm a librarian in Austin at Westlake High School. And last year I stumbled into K12 Online and watched a fabulous presentation on Google Earth and how you could make trips in Google Earth. And I've been wanting to learn how to do that, so it was fascinating to me getting to hear and see the instructions in the presentation. Then I also participated in the 24-hour event When Night Falls, which was a closing Skype cast for the conference. You have to understand I'd never used Skype before, so I had to download it and figure out how to configure it, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but it was so exciting to me to get to talk to educators from other places. And once I got into the Skype chat, I was talking with a teacher from Wales and a teacher from Scotland and some teachers from other parts of the U.S. And it was just such a thrill for the first time to be sitting in my house talking to teachers from all over the world and sharing ideas and problems and solutions together. So I just think the conference is such a valuable international tool and a way to learn on your own time, go back and review things when you have some extra time, and I'm really excited about this year's conference.
So, Lani, the theme of the conference is actually playing with boundaries. In your own words, what do you think people might expect to take away from that concept, this idea of playing with boundaries? Like, how are you exploring that idea?
I think the idea is being explored by it was explored by David and will be by the keynoters and the presenters, in that classrooms are not four walls anymore. Classrooms are open to the world, and what can we do with those boundaries that we used to have when we were isolated and no longer have to be isolated, where kids couldn't collaborate and create the way they can now? What do we do to play with those boundaries to best impact our practice and create engaging learning environments for our young people?
Yeah, and we haven't really spoken much about David's keynote, and I guess by the time this podcast goes live, hopefully we can time this so that it's after David's keynote, which it is, and before the rest of the conference, hopefully. But David's keynote was amazing, and the response to it has been amazing. Did you want to sort of mention anything about that? Because I'd like to encourage people to go back and re-listen to it if they haven't already heard it.
I would really encourage people to go take a look at what David presented. He really takes that concept of pushing the boundaries and really plays with it well. Last year,
yes,
his keynote, which is also available on the conference blog, he talked about a railroad track and how knowledge isn't linear anymore. And so this time he took that and played with the boundary a little bit and opened up at an airport where there's planes going off in every direction and that it's not linear in any way, shape, or form. And he really kind of built on that idea. Along the playing with boundaries theme, I just wanted to throw in that one of the things that I think has been exciting for me this year is that every year in working with K12 Online, it becomes an extreme professional, personal learning time for me.
Yes.
Because as concepts come up, as conveners, we start to work with different issues and things that we've never had to work with before, like who controls content and how are we going to collaborate together on doing this, and what is the most innovative way to share this piece. I have been stretched and had to challenge my own boundaries. I thought out of the box, but then I realized I build another box around myself, and here through K12 Online, I found myself even climbing out of that box and then wondering what boundaries there, from beyond. So I know that conference participants will have their boundaries pushed, but even on a personal level, as a convener, it's been incredible for the personal learning and the boundaries that have been pushed in my own experience.
Yeah, and I think Carolyn summed that up really well in her quote, and I've certainly found the same thing myself. And Darren really, when I spoke to him earlier, made an excellent point about this idea that when you go to a conference, a traditional conference, and you might spend all day there and you walk away with one good idea, but in his view, that's not enough. You need to that's not value for money. That you need to come to something where you can walk away with tons of good ideas. And I think that's what people are getting from this, because of the way the conversation's extending beyond just what happens in that 1 hour session or that, the 2 week period or whatever, that the conversations that get started and continue on, that's where a lot of the value is coming from in terms of generating ideas and putting things into practice.
Absolutely. It's at the heart of connectivism. It's where people are connecting together, and then from there, the diversity of ideas come together, and then there's a true innovation, because when you bring two very diverse ideas together in one place, you get this brand new idea. And I've just seen incredible things birth out of the kinds of information that you're getting, because it's exactly like Darren said. Instead of just one or two ideas, we see a merging of lots of different ideas from lots of different cultural perspectives. And out of that, great, fantastic things happen, and they're birthed.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I thank you both for joining me. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm really hoping that people who hear this will go along and get a bit inquisitive and take part in the event. Download a couple of things, have a listen to things, watch a few things, have a few conversations, and get started down that road to discovering where teaching really is headed in the 21st century.
We look forward to seeing everybody online. Come join us.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for joining me, and thanks, Lani.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you guys during the conference. So there you have it. I hope that fires you up and gets you excited about the possibilities of K12 Online Conference for 2007. As Sammy Davis Jr. once said, if this doesn't turn you on, then you ain't got no switches. So after hearing from the participants from last year and also the organisers for the last couple of years, I really hope you take on board some of the things you've heard there and head over and get involved. It's a smorgasbord, it's like all these downloadable things, and you can go and get involved on whatever level you like. You can go and just download one or two things that grab your attention. You can listen to the whole lot, watch the whole lot. You can get involved in the live events. We'd love you to get involved in as much as possible, I'm sure, but whatever you can do would be wonderful, and I know you'll get something out of it. So I'd just like to thank the conveners for taking the time out. This is the probably the busiest time for them at the moment. We've had the keynote address from Dave Warlick a couple of days ago, and if you haven't heard that, hey, go and listen to it. It was an eye-opener, and you'll love it. And the actual events start, let me give you the exact dates here, next week, the 15th to the 19th of October. They'll be releasing 20 presentations during that week, and the following week, the 22nd to the 26th of October, there'll be another 20 presentations released. So 40 presentations all up, drip fed to you over that 2-week period, and followed up by some fireside chats, which are basically online sessions where you can go in and discuss some of the things you've heard and talk about the ideas you're hearing and how they might apply to you. And of course the When Night Falls event at the end, which I was involved in last year, and a fascinating event to sort of take a single conversation and chase it around the globe as the sun sets. Really interesting stuff, and I really encourage you to have a go in that. So there you go. That's about all we've got time for this episode. I'd just like to thank the organisers again for getting involved. Lani Ritter Hall, Cheryl Nussbaum Beach, Darren Kurapatwa, and unfortunately Wes Fryer couldn't join us. He just had too much on at the moment, and that's okay, totally understand. But all of those four have some amazing blogs with some fabulous thinking that goes on. And if you've never read their blogs, go and check them out. In the show notes for this episode over at www.virtualstaffroom.net, I will make sure that I put links to the conference, links to the blogs, links to all the related materials that we've talked about in this show, and hopefully we will see you online. Until then, my name is Chris Betcher, and you've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room.
Is she gone?
I don't know. Cheryl, are you there?
No,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here. The question cut out a couple times, so I was going to let Lani jump on it, and then I could fill it in.
We'll fix it in post.
Jump the last part of